and then I can hop in.
Great. Welcome, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to the Sunflower Meadows Community Outreach Meeting today, April 19th, 2021, 6:30 p.m. We're starting a moment or two late, just waiting. We're just waiting to let more people filter in. Tonight, we're going to go through, explain to you the business of Sunflower Meadows, answer any questions from the audience, and in a moment, I'll introduce the cast of characters that are with us tonight, as well as what to expect. Kaylee, do you want to introduce yourself first? Or should we run through the Zoom etiquette?
Yeah, if you want to do this first, then I have
Sure.
a slide with me and Rob's bios on there.
Excellent. So please be civil. We know there may be some people who don't fully understand the marijuana market or against it, and we're here to answer your questions, but we ask, be civil and be polite. If you've got a question, you'll see a chat button down at the bottom. We've circled it to show you what it looks like. You can pose a question in chat. Some of the questions we'll answer right in the chat if they're simple. Other questions we'll answer verbally, but we may hold on to it. We have the advantage of knowing what all the slides are that are coming up and what the various subjects are. And if you ask a subject that we know we're going to cover in a few minutes, we may wait and cover it at that time. But when we get to the end, we're going to go back through the chat to make sure that we've answered everybody's questions for them. So what we're going to cover, team introductions. We'll let you know who you're going to hear from tonight. We're going to explain to you the location, zoning compliance, buffer zones, and the local permitting regulations, the types of marijuana establishments and the property structure, the type of license we're seeking. We'll talk a little bit about the security, how we're going to prevent diversion, how we're going to make sure that this facility will not be a nuisance to the community, our positive impact plan. We'll talk about the host community agreement, and then we'll wrap it up with licensing process and the anticipated timeline. And again, we will be taking questions along the way. So great. Team introductions, and I'll turn that over to Kaylee.
Awesome. Thank you, David. So my name is Kaylee Hepburn. I'm an attorney in Massachusetts. I've been working in the cannabis and hemp industry for about 2 years now. I also do real estate and veterans benefits and estate planning. And I'm working with Rob Wolf, who will introduce himself now.
Hi, my name is Rob Wolf. I'm an attorney, also the leader of this organization, so to speak. We created an organization called New England Agricultural Technologies back in 2018 to find land sites and develop them and permit them for cannabis cultivation. We felt that that was the gap in the industry that needed to be fulfilled in a professional and proper sense. And this particular piece of property in Orange, we purchased in the fall of 2019 from the Economic Development Commission in Orange, with the anticipation that we were going to do something with it, maybe a greenhouse for cultivation or for this outdoor growing facility. And in fact, it's an ideal situation for an outdoor growing facility that was introduced to us last fall. And so we've endeavored to put together a team to develop that as an outdoor grow facility. And Kaylee and I are the licensees for this particular project on that property.
Great. David, you're muted. David is our moderator tonight.
Yes, I'm David Rabinovitz. I'm the moderator. I'm also very active in the Massachusetts marijuana industry. And is Leo with us?
Leo is not with us tonight, but he did share with me some talking points when we get to his security slide.
Great.
He
Leo,
investigator come on to answer questions tonight if he has time.
Leo is with the Sapphire Risk Advisory Group. They are a very popular security firm. They work with quite a few prospective marijuana operators on developing the security plans. Reasonably well respected.
Rob, if you want to run through some of the.
So these are, we have a deep reservoir of resources of professionals in both engineering as well as in the technology of the security, architecture, and the planning of the cannabis facilities. We're spearheading not only this Orange facility, but also greenhouses throughout the state that are going to be leased to cultivators. But this particular project is a small model of what we're doing elsewhere. where this is an outdoor grow facility that Kaylee and I are the licensees. And we're actually going to be leasing the property from our parent company. So these are our partners in the parent company. So New England Agricultural Technologies is our parent organization. 2WR is one of the leading cannabis and agricultural architecture firms in the country, both in North Carolina and Colorado. They design extensive greenhouses throughout the country in not just cannabis space, but also in major agricultural facilities like Monsanto, Scotts, et cetera. Arch Solar are the partners that are developing our greenhouses at sites elsewhere. We mentioned Sapphire Security. They are one of the leading firms that are developing and manage and put in the security technology, because under the CCC regulations, under Massachusetts law, security is a highly sensitive and regulated matter. And Sapphire is one of the leading people that are involved in that, as you mentioned, David. And then Bowler Engineering is one of our leading engineering firms that does our site planning and survey work on the actual land and on the buildings themselves. On this particular matter, they've done the site survey. They're designing out the area that we're going to be growing and what we have to do for placement. But that's our team of people.
So the location of this outdoor grow is Lot 4 in the Randall Pond Industrial Park. The parcel number is 129-6, so you can find it easily on the GIS mapping. It's a little bit hard to find otherwise, but you can find it on the GIS mapping and see exactly where it is. And here's what you'll find on GIS. Where that blue dot is where our 4.5 acre lot is. So you come to the end of Quabbin Boulevard, it's straight ahead in that cul-de-sac. This is what it looks like today. So it's already cleared. And when we talk about nuisance mitigation and odor control and visual shielding later, I'll come back to this photo and show you that we're wooded on two sides. And the back side over here, there's nothing behind us, and it's pretty far to the next building. We do have two neighbors on either side of us.
Which I'll pipe in if I could, Kaylee. They are also going to be cannabis cultivators. So we're actually surrounded by other cultivation firms. So we're not interfering with any neighbors that would object, because in fact, our neighbors are going to be doing virtually the same thing we are. And at the rear section of that is a Silver Brook, and on the other side is George Hunt's property. And people know George Hunt. He's a fairly large landowner in Orange, pretty good guy. He actually turned us onto this property. He has not only a head of cattle and corn, but he also has a number of big solar projects that he's done in town. So he's well known in Orange, and that's his property behind us, and we're a neighbor of his.
We'll talk a little bit about the town zoning, our compliance with the zoning, the buffers, and local permitting process. So our land site is 4.552 acres. It's zoned residential commercial, which is zone B in orange. The buffer zone is per the CCC regulations, as Orange has not chosen to reduce the requirement. So it's 500 feet from the nearest school entrance, and that's measured in a straight line from the geometric center of the facility to the geometric center of the nearest school entrance. We've notified all abutters within 300 feet of this development. So the town of Orange hasn't adopted any marijuana specific zoning requirements. We're looking for an agricultural use, which is we're gonna be required to get a special permit and a site plan review, which has just standard review considerations. So we are going for a tier 9 cannabis cultivation license, an outdoor license, which allows us to have up to 80,000 square feet of canopy. The maximum license would be 100,000 square feet of canopy. We're going to have a simple greenhouse to start, and future expansions might include a larger greenhouse in the back, but we're not sure if we're going to do that or not yet. But we could put a bigger greenhouse in the back, 25,000 square feet. There'll be no retail, no direct consumer sales, and no on-site consumption. So the facility itself is going to be quiet and discreet. Outdoor cannabis cultivation has many benefits, mostly including it's powered by the sun. We don't have a high electricity demand. We use as much of the natural resources as we can, so it's very environmentally friendly, and the way it's been grown for decades. The simple greenhouse will accommodate immature plants before we plant them outside. We're not going to have a road. There'll be very limited access and no major excavation. The containers will be placed on gravel, so there won't be any foundations poured. We're going to be using rainwater supplemented with irrigation, so we have plenty of town water, but we'll also be collecting as much rainwater as we can. We won't have any ground disturbance. We're going to be growing the plants in fabric or mesh bags. And we'll use complementary plantings for pest control, which is going to reduce our need for any kind of pest management. We'll start with planting things like rosemary, marigolds, things like that are going to help with pest control. Talk a little bit about the security plan here. So the security plan, like we've talked about, was designed by Sapphire Risk Advisory Group. They design security systems not only for other cultivators and marijuana companies around the country, but also for jewelry stores and other high value retail items. So some of the highlights of our security system are going to include a perimeter fence, which is going to have commercial grade locks. It's designed to prevent unauthorized entry. There'll be signs telling people that it's a limited access area. The security system is continuously monitored and provides alerts if there's any type of breach. There'll be video cameras at all points of entry and exit and in the parking. And they'll cover every aspect of the facility. We'll have 24-hour recordings, which will be available for immediate viewing in the event of any kind of issue. It'll remain operational during a power outage with backup generators. And we have emergency response procedures and training for any employees. That's also headed by Sapphire. And we have secure waste disposal with Sapphire. I'm just going to read some of Leo's highlights here. So the continuously monitored alarm system. During business hours, there's panic alarm buttons in any sensitive areas, duress alarm codes for holdups, on-site guard responses. After hours, there's motion detectors, door contacts, and glass breaks. So the lights and the lighting system at night would only turn on if there's any motion detected by the cameras. And the design strategy is proactive. They prefer proactive to reactive security. So they have everyone entering through the same gate. They have a video monitor to remind everyone that there's security cameras there. The blanket camera coverage will cover every spot in the facility. Access regulation would be checking IDs and key cards before anyone's allowed in the facility. There's communications with intercoms for any kind of holdup situations. And then I have a photo. This is a picture of a sample security system for a greenhouse. So this isn't going to be what we're going to use off the bat, but in a future greenhouse, this will be the security system design. And it's here to show you the detail in Sapphire's security systems. So all these little icons are showing you panic buttons, cameras, door buzzers, anything like that. So it'll show you how secure Sapphire is making the facility.
May I make a comment just to reiterate what Kaylee is sharing with you? One of the concepts, the emphasis that the CCC or the state regulators place is on the security. And one attribute of this, and one positive attribute, is that the security systems are very elaborate and really are designed for much more interactive operations, such as retail stores, more and larger cultivation sites. So in fact, many of the features that Kaylee mentioned are really designed for storefronts, retail, et cetera. This particular situation really has no risk or very little risk. We're not a retail operation. We're not going to have high traffic. We're not going to have a lot of people at the site at any one time. There's not a lot of traffic in terms of delivery of goods and product, et cetera. So it's a relatively low risk, low operation, low activity facility, but we're still under the same process and procedures for the security systems for a much more intricate operation. So it's very secure and very safe.
This is a picture from the newspaper of a existing outdoor grow in Sheffield. It's a photo of when they were doing their site work. So it shows you an example of how our fencing is going to look. Simple 8-foot chain link fence with a green screen. We'll also have complementary plantings surrounding that fence to help with odor control and the visual impact of the site. That's showing the greenhouse going up in there and just how really simple these outdoor facilities can be. And our security system ties right into our prevention of diversion to minors plan. So security and diversion prevention are a top priority of all cannabis operators and the state and local licensing authorities. So our security plan will be presented to the police in Orange as well as the fire department. Our diversion prevention strategy is multi-pronged. It starts with that security system, and that includes strict adherence to identification and visitor badge requirements, so there's never anyone underage or unauthorized on the premises. The security system and the compliance with the metric seed to sale tracking program keeps a tight control on inventory, so we know very quickly if there's any discrepancy in our product weight. Any instances of diversion will be immediately reported to the CCC, and anyone responsible for that would be terminated. And all of our marketing is geared toward those 21 and over. We'll go through some of the common nuisance items and our plans to mitigate those items. So the first one would be traffic. Rob already talked about how there's not going to be any increased traffic. We don't have retail. There's no visitors coming to the site. There's limited employees. So the traffic would be limited to our employees and unmarked deliveries, which are also regulated by the CCC to be very secure, and they'll be infrequent. People are worried about neighborhoods having negative impacts, but studies have shown in the real estate market that legalized recreational cannabis actually drives property values up, and will be in line with the character of the industrial park, which are regular industrial steel buildings around us, and the other grow facilities, as Rob talked about. Our utility usage is as minimal as possible. So energy efficiency is a major design consideration as we're going through the design for this project. We're going to be using the sun and rain and backup infrastructure. So we're also going to be using solar with battery backup and generators for our power. And all of these strategies are to be energy efficient. Our odors can be mitigated by natural vegetation, so there'll be other plantings around the cannabis, including plants that have a high scent, rosemary, lavender, things like that. Any noise, which is minimal, it's really reduced to fans in the drying season. All of our noise would be in compliance with the town and the CCC regulations. We talked about the visual impact. Lighting for the outdoor field is limited to just the necessary lighting for the security cameras, which only turn on if there's any motion in the site. So the lighting, not only do we want to have a low light level just for our neighbors, but also for the plants. You don't want the light to turn on for the plants overnight. You want them to have the natural sun schedule. Pesticides. So state law prohibits the use of pesticides, insecticides, and fungicides on plants. So we'll only use methods that are deemed safe by the EPA, which are things like garlic and peppermint, natural plantings that we'll be planting there anyways for both pest control and odor control. And that pesticide regulation is enforced by CCC, which they do random inspections. And the testing that we do at the end of the season would test for any kind of type of pesticides. So if we did use pesticides, that would be sanctioned, and it would almost definitely be caught by the state or by the testing facility. Let's see. We'll talk about our positive impact plan. Positive impact plan is another requirement of the CCC, which is the Cannabis Control Commission. It's designed to positively impact those who are disproportionately harmed by cannabis prohibition and enforcement. And they work to benefit 5 major groups. The first one is residents of areas of disproportionate impact. The second is certified economic empowerment priority recipients. The third are social equity program participants. And then the fourth and fifth are mass residents with past drug convictions, or mass residents with a parent or a spouse with a past drug conviction. So we have 2 plans to positively impact these 5 groups. The first would be an annual record sealing workshop. So and every year we'll hold a record sealing workshop, which will help people come in and figure out what type of records they can seal, minor cannabis infractions. And we teach them how to seal it and help them through the court process. And we're also working with the town of Orange to determine a charitable cause to donate to. So those are our two positive impact plan programs. And we have four main ways that we're going to benefit the town of Orange. So the first would be with our host community agreement, which we're going to talk about next. And that's going to have a community impact fee. And that is designed to pay for any impact that our facility might have on the town and bring that impact to a net zero. Our second area of benefit is the positive impact plan that we talked about. The third is another Cannabis Control Commission requirement, which is called the diversity plan. And our diversity plan will include hiring goals to have a percentage of our workforce from diverse groups. And we'll either fund or host training programs to foster career advancement for people in the community and our own employees. The fourth is a foundation called the MEND Foundation. And that is a function of the Grow Space New England leasing program. Every square foot of canopy has a specific dollar amount allocated to the MEND Foundation, and they'll identify a town goal or a project and then donate either time or funds to help with that project. And we'll talk about the host community agreement. That's another one of the first steps in the process is obtaining a host community agreement with the town in which you want to site. It's the main contract between the cultivator and the town. It's valid for 5 years, and common elements include a 3% annual gross sales paid to the town, which is the community impact fee that we talked about. And it can be used for many different things. Some things would be consultant reports, traffic studies, roadway improvements. And just want to point out that cultivators are low impact cannabis operators, so we really shouldn't have much of an impact on the town at all. So our timeline to become operational, first we're going to host this outreach meeting in April today. Then we'll negotiate an HCA with the town, which we've already started working on. We should have that finished relatively soon. We'll apply for our license by the end of the month, and then hopefully plant our first crop in July. And here is our contact information if you have any questions. And I haven't seen any questions come through the chat. David, do you have any questions from anybody? You're muted.
Good point. I have not seen anything yet. The chat's empty. If anybody has a question that they'd like to pose to anybody on our panel, please do so in the chat.
All right, and this will be posted to YouTube. Actually, the presentation's already been posted to YouTube, but this recorded presentation will also be posted, and that will have all of our contact information. So any follow-up questions you can send to me or Rob or David.
Any questions from the audience? Bueller? Okay, seeing that we have no questions, I think we should time to adjourn?
Yes.
Great. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for attending the community outreach meeting. We appreciate your time and attention.